At COVID-19 community support. We are so glad that you've joined us this evening for the final episode of Table Talk, where we have 4 Central Oregon residents talking all things COVID and helping you get through the pandemic. But before we get started, really quickly, just a little bit about us. We are an informal coalition of healthcare providers and other community leaders who have been working together to bring you live programming to help you and your family get through the pandemic. And we're funded by the Central Oregon Health Council. Now, before we jump right into Table Talk, really quickly, you should know that this event is provided for educational purposes only. It is not offered as medical advice or medical opinions. If you do have a mental health or medical condition, please contact your healthcare provider. So if you're joining us live on Facebook or YouTube, I know that our Table Talk guests definitely want to hear from you. So type in your comments, questions. We want you to be part of the conversation tonight. We got all sorts of good stuff coming at you. And I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Shaw really quickly, but I do want to say go Blazers.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Kevin Shaw, and I'm a counselor, a licensed clinical social worker. I'm representing the Cowboys today because the Cowboys went back to their training facility today. 75 people were allowed in down in Texas. So football hopefully will continue and be on time. But we're excited to be here today, and I want to allow Shilo to introduce herself and go around the table.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shilo Tippet. I'm a clinical psychologist and Madras. Angela?
Oh, hello. My name is Angela Ahmed. I am a newly graduate from OSU, mother of 4, married, and a Bend resident here.
Hi, Angela. I'm Jerome Johnson, and I'm a general contractor specializing in carpet and floor covering installation. Live here in Bend, and it's going to be nice to see the Cowboys go out in the first round of the playoffs again this year.
Hey, you know what? I don't talk bad about other people's teams. I just talk good about mine. But hey, that's the way you want to roll. It's all good with me.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
I did root for the Cubs though when they were in the World Series. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Good man.
Yeah. And Des Bryant did go to Oklahoma State, so I was a big fan of that.
Yeah, he did. That's true.
He did, and he hurt us very bad. Or hurt the Longhorns, so he helped the Cowboys. But anyways. So I have a trivia question for you guys, and I'm going to roll with it. Do we have any? I have something I can offer up as a prize if somebody doesn't have something. Does anybody have something from a local vendor or anything that they want to offer up? I have something if not.
Maybe you could give your hat away.
Somebody would have to guess my social security number to do that. Okay, here's the question, and I also have it for you guys.
Okay.
We can answer it at the end. What is a sitcom that came out in the late 70s and early 80s? One of the characters' name was Rerun. And
what was the character's name?
Rerun.
Oh, Rerun.
Rerun. Okay, and whoever gets that right, as far as, if you're watching out there and you're typing and chatting, you can get this webcam right here. It's a high definition.
Wow.
Wow.
Things are extremely hard to get. So I'll offer that up.
Hey, Kevin, this is Matt. Can I get that from you? I could definitely use it for sure.
I know the answer.
I do too. I was like, I do too. Can I participate?
I know. Can I?
Hey, well, let's just get this out of the way. Matt, go ahead. What do you got?
No, you should. Everybody should do it. I. That's fine. I'm
Yes.
okay. That's fine. You guys should. It should be. it should be participating in the room for sure. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
I'm not gonna. No, I just know how difficult webcams are to get right now. So yes.
I bet. Wow.
Exactly. And I don't want to give my age by knowing that question too.
Yeah. We didn't have TV when I was little, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
You're not that old.
Familiar. No, TV existed. I just didn't have it.
Calm down.
Okay. So, Tyler, that's a really good point. I mean, when did you get a TV? When was this the first time you got a TV?
I don't know. Forever, my parents told us they couldn't afford cable, so we didn't have it.
Aww.
And then one day I walked in and my dad was watching cable because he didn't think anyone was home. He was watching Godzilla.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I was like, I thought we didn't have cable. But no, I think he just had rabbit ears probably on the TV. We didn't have TV until I was probably like 12 or 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I was born in 1970, and I always remember always watching Days of Our Lives, so I don't know.
Oh.
We've always had TV, yeah. I still watch Days of Our Lives. Anyway, sorry.
So we didn't have cable where I was either, but we definitely got to watch TV. I mean, the Super Friends, Saturday morning, 7
Wonder Power Twins, Activate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Something.
Hey, those lunch pails are worth a lot these days.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. The old metal lunch pails.
Mm-hmm.
Scooby-Doo.
You know what? Right when you said that, I just smelled it. You know how those old lunch pails, they kind of smell? I just had a flashback of what those, the thermos.
I love the thermos. I think I had a gizmo. I had like a gizmo or a Wonder Woman or something. Those were so neat.
Yeah.
Hold on. What lunchbox did you have in school? What was the coolest lunchbox you ever had?
I had Holly Hobby.
Oh, wow. Classic.
Yes.
I can't remember. That was too long ago.
I had Star Wars. That was mine, man.
Oh, that would be really a hot item now.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about? Where you flip the lid and you still open it up, it has a smell.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it's the things that you bought back then, like the Star Crunches.
Formaldehyde.
Yeah, probably BPA. Some toxin.
I know. I'm sure there's a lawsuit out there somewhere with those plastics that they use. But yeah, I think it was just from like the milk because parents would use milk and Kool-Aid back in the day from water.
Yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe that was that smell. It was that kind of that odd old milk smell.
Yeah.
That sounded very appetizing. But,
yeah, I know.
But it was what it smelled like every day.
I know. Yes,
well,
and we all live to tell about it. So
that's right. We're good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so today we're going to talk about what's behind the curtain, and we're going to talk about specifically what's behind Angela's curtain right now.
I was totally thinking that. That's so funny.
Just a window, but it's raining here in Washington. I'm social distancing with my beautiful auntie here in Washington. So she lives out in a beautiful country, but it's I'm in a bedroom, so yeah. Gotcha. Different here. Yeah. So I love the curtain. I thought it was very nice. So I thought today would be a great subject that, something that a lot of people today are dealing with is addiction. It's all sorts of addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, process addictions, which could be food, gambling, other sorts of addictions. And I have a family member that has relapsed with addiction. And what's been really hard and the subject that I wanted to talk about was not having that close camaraderie that she has had to keep her spirits up to stay clean and free, and to be able to have the socialization that she is needed and the support that she is needed to stay clean. Now, granted, she is doing wonderful now and has gotten the help needed, but it has been very difficult. The struggles are there. And overall, being able to talk about it and knowing that the struggle is real is something that I would love to hear everyone embrace and give ideas for those out there. And granted, there's so many beautiful programs locally that we have that can help everyone, which has been amazing. And she's been able to get on board with plenty of those. But just the real fact is that there's still that lapse, that distance that in AA and NA, there's not the programs that, they hug and they hold and they are able to see and feel and use your, all five senses when they're going into these meetings. And that's not there. And those are real life things that can affect isolation for people with addiction. So I am advocating to hear some different things from all of you to help all those in need in the different sorts of addiction that we all struggle with, whether it is even emotional addictions and things of depression too, can even far-fetched that we all need to inquire about to help all of us. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Jerome?
Yeah, well, I do have some experience in that field. I'm a sober man. I've been completely clean and sober for over 21 years. So I understand the difficulty of getting sober in the first place. One of the keys that I've have found was that it's maybe not impossible, but very difficult to get sober alone by yourself. It takes a fellowship. It takes a group of people to support one another, because isolation is the enemy, if someone who's struggling with that sort of thing. So the fellowship is extremely important. And there's a lot of resources that people can reach out to. I know that Dawn said she was going to put some of the resources up in the chat box for people who are listening. There's a wide variety of places that you can seek out help. To take that first step towards changing your life. And as far as the struggle being increasing with this COVID-19 situation, anything that's stressful, anything that causes a person to feel afraid, is going to trigger the addiction to take off or become even worse. So one other I have noticed, there are a lot of acquaintances that I know that have just haven't heard from, because myself. And but on the other hand, there's a lot of people that I do know in the fellowship that I am involved with, that we stay very close on the phone, text, and through Zoom meetings, which is very helpful. So and I could expand on that, but let's maybe hear what some of the others have to say about this, and I'll come back in later.
Just thinking how hard this is. Of course, there's the stressors, but also just the lack of routine and things we keep ourselves busy with, like especially people new to recovery. That it's really important that they surround themselves with people who validate where the journey they're on, but also that they stay really active in healthy activities. And that's so hard right now. It's so extremely hard and isolating. I was also thinking about values living based on your values. Like you can do that anytime, obviously, but it's so much harder during this pandemic, when we've been so isolated and away from people who can really encourage and validate that. So I think it's a great topic. So many people are struggling right now for really good reasons. I mean, this is a crazy time. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I've been in recovery myself since 2003, and and I work a program myself, and I think routine is a good I think that's a really really good point. And I know for me, the only reason why I succeed is because of the people that I brought into my life. But I don't naturally go that direction. I stick with my routines, and then what happens is COVID comes, and, now I don't have my routines, and I don't want to put in that extra effort to call somebody to do some meeting and adjust my schedule and all these changes. I don't think they're intentional, but I think what happens is that it just causes you to kind of lose momentum, lose contact just slowly, and there's in the big book, it talks about this moment that this guy has where he's by himself, he's eating lunch, and I have a different addiction than alcohol, but he's sober, and it says suddenly he thinks about pouring, doing this thing, and it all happens suddenly, and the suddenlies are what get people off track who've been in recovery a long time. They've just been kind of doing great, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm in COVID, everything's good, but you get more and more kind of just disconnected, and then all of a sudden, suddenly, and it just catches you off guard, and next thing you know, your mind goes in a different direction. So I think because of the disconnection with people and the lack of routine, there's a potential for those suddenlies there, that you're suddenly by yourself, or suddenly you watch a commercial, and things that were bouncing off of you, you watch TV all day, and you get pounded with all these different commercials, and suddenly all of a sudden you're off track, and so I think it's a really interesting topic. I know for me, I really relied on my family a lot, and I just I know, Jerome, you talked about isolation. I just feel for people that do have more isolation. I know that I have strayed from, my routines, and I have connection with people that kind of, I talk to intentionally, but I have to be intentional. It's like I'm walking upstream, I have to be intentional about the things that I'm doing. Whereas before it was just kind of the flow. Hey, yeah, Tuesday nights do this and this, that, and the other. But now I have to intentionally do things that are inconvenient to help me be connected. I don't know Jerome. One of the sayings that I've heard you say before was it isolation is a solution to my what was it that? I love
no. The cure to loneliness is isolation, and that's just an example of the disease. It lies to you. It's like your own brain is lying to you. And I believed it. And it's like, well, I'd participate or go to some meetings or get some counseling, but it's just safer to stay here and isolate, and that's what my experience is that an addiction wants to get you alone, wants to get you in a corner, it wants to get you alone because it wants to kill you. And that's the strange paradox or mystery of this addiction, is that it has a plan, and it's going to sneak up on you. And so in order to overcome that, a defense has to be put up. And that can be done by having a fellowship, by getting into a recovery program, by seeking out professional guidance and counseling, and then to live that program, and to early on, people said, hey, are you willing to go to any length to overcome this addiction? And it's like, of course, whenever things are horrible and your life couldn't be worse, you go, oh yeah, I'll go to any length. When things get better, then the disease comes back and starts lying to you. Yes, things are better now. You don't got a problem anymore. The addiction, what addiction? Go have a drink. Go go to the casino, gamble, do whatever your addiction is, and that's why it has to be taken care of on a daily basis. You can't just let your guard down. You have to get a program, stick with it, and learn to be able to trust in the good side of life, and not go the other direction. Because and isolation is happening a lot with the COVID-19, because on one hand we're told we got to go home and stay home. And if you're like me, I live alone, so it's like I go home, be alone. But I know that I have learned that I still have a fellowship of people that I am in contact with all the time, and I don't just isolate, because it's unhealthy, and there's a lot of hope. But it just takes a little bit of willingness to start that path to the light side, So, yeah. What do you think, Angela?
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I feel routine is really important, Kevin. Also, one thing I have found that I have seen a big change in my family members is taking care of yourself. That I find even through COVID right now, it's the simple things like getting up. And it's so easy to stay in your jammies and stay in your sweats and just kind of be more relaxed, and it just seems every day it's easier to get more relaxed, to not put your makeup on or not brush your hair one day, and then it just keeps getting more relaxed. So I feel, as we've talked, my relative is, hey, take your shower, get dressed, and just maintain, of course, your personal hygiene. However, just keep that routine going, but taking care of yourself with self-care, but, and not the extent of, being in your own hot tubs or, but the simple things, making sure you shower and take a walk, and the things that we can do during COVID. And I feel stuff like that will help constitute to sobriety in many ways. Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what Shilo thinks. She's from a psychological standpoint.
Yeah.
You're still seeing clients, Shilo, and active in the community. What are you seeing, and what are your thoughts?
We all go to our default functioning during times like this, so some people are gaining weight, and some people are getting depressed. Some people are going to old habits. I think it makes sense that we go to default functioning, especially because this was a chronic stressor that had it started totally abruptly and then had no end date. It still doesn't. And so it's like this wearing stressor that chips away at people. I was also thinking about one of the common factors in people who struggle with addiction is lack of problem-solving skills, and how right now that could be so difficult. That could be very challenging. That at some point in their lives, they did not learn how to solve problems in a way that maybe we wish they would have. And that's what working through recovery teaches people to do. Like all kinds of recovery teaches people to solve problems in a way that's healthy. And that's really difficult right now, because it's almost like when the kids at school have a substitute teacher, like we are just all on Like no one's watching us, and we're not at work. We're not under the same guidelines that we normally are, and so anything goes. Like Angela was saying, like you don't have to wash your hair for days on end. No one will know. You can eat chips for breakfast, which I've totally done. Like no one will know. And so if you boil that down to someone who's dealing with addiction and maybe having difficulty, some of their default difficulty with problem solving, makes a lot of sense why major slip ups can happen right now. And they're not alone. Like I feel like most people are struggling with their default functioning at some point during these past couple of months, you know?
And Shilo, for those, like, what would you describe as default functioning? How would you describe that?
Like if you think about when you're under chronic stress, so we can all, usually we have the capacity to deal with stress, day-to-day stressors. We're like, oh, that was a tough day, but you know, I can handle it. I'm going to go home. I'm going to take a run. I'm going to have a healthy dinner. If we get compounded stressors, so there's too many things happening for us, then we tend to go to default functioning. So instead of saying, oh, I'm going to run and call my friend, you know, to get some healthy support, you go to default functioning. Well, hey, I think today was such a hard day. I think I'm going to have a drink.
Tell my mom on podcast.
Or I think I'm going to go ahead and, you know, I might just smoke some weed right now, even though I had quit months ago. It's no big deal. It's a pandemic. That's what I mean by default functioning. Okay. Like when we have too many compounding stressors, that we go down to that. So we get, you know, shorter with people. We get more irritable. So that's what I was thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it made sense. I was thinking more for our listeners who may not have known all the verbiage. So yes, but that's a great, yeah, definitely more understandable. Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's mom doing back there? What's mom up to?
Sorry.
What are you doing?
She entered the room. Sorry. I was like,
I will say, my dad has been in recovery, I think for 33 years. I was going to text him and try to find out. But he went into, I just noticed so many great things about him, in his recovery. But one thing he told me is that what finally kicked for him, what finally was the kicker that got him to stay away from one point on, is that someone told him that you're not like those other people you see, like who can go to happy hour, maybe they'll have 1 or 2 glasses of wine or beer, and they're fine for months on end. His friend told him, his sponsor told him, you're not that person. You can never do that. That is not a lifestyle you can engage in, because the risks, the cost of you doing that is too great. And I think that mentality is so important. Just that it's able to totally lock it out of your mind that is not an option for me. And so you have to go to other ways of functioning. So it's like that's not even an option. So what can I do instead? I'm going to reach out to right ways, or I'm going to, call my good friend to take a walk instead, because that's not even an option for me. I think that's a really good point that not everyone knows, but a lot of people do. But
definitely, that is very good.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's the, I think there's a difference, and Jerome, I'd be curious what all you guys think, but I think there's a difference between someone that has a problem, right, and someone who has an addiction, and if someone, and typically, someone with an addiction will not think they have an addiction, they'll think they have a problem. So, it's a mystery to everybody, including the person with the addiction, and usually the people that find out are not the addicts first, right? But to someone who truly has an addiction, I think that what you're talking about, Shilo, truly is the very first and the most important, building stone is the idea that it's a game changer. It's something that can't be negotiated. And for other people that are struggling, and and I don't really know, for them kind of how it works, but I know people struggle that don't have an addiction. And for them, I think that, that support, self-care, routine habits, even counseling, these things can be very helpful. But with someone with an addiction, it is a very, very difficult to overcome that without a fellowship, without a group of people that can help you walk through that. And I can just say for me, I'm a counselor, so I see it from both sides, but also as someone who is in recovery. It is that it is a daily thing when I go, wow, I am not like other people in this area, and that right there can be a life-saving paradigm to be reminded of every day. And so I want to shout, I appreciate you saying that, and I think if anybody else has an addiction and they're listening to this, remember that this is it's different for you. Even though we're disconnected and everything's different and everything, we're still there. We still have our default settings, and it's important that we maintain the course that we're on if we're progressing towards recovery. And the other thing I was going to say too, I was actually talking to somebody who's been in relapse for a while. I talked to them today, and the thing that I want to say to anybody who's actively using right now is that you are very special and very important. If you've got something going on and you're beating yourself, that's okay. It's okay. You are a wonderful person. Regardless if you're using or failing or gambling or whatever, you are important. And that's the most important thing. If you're currently using and you're kind of struggling and you're beating yourself and everything, just first and foremost, you're okay. You're a good person and you're struggling with something, but it starts with you're okay. And now let's take a step forward, and maybe take that next step. But I just really felt like it's important for people to know that they're okay. They're good people. They may be stuck, but they're good people. I don't know. Jerome, what are your thoughts?
Well, absolutely. And there's a solution to break out of that. And as far as the default setting goes, I mean, that's something that needs to be changed and it's possible to change that default setting, to where, it's like, oh, things are bad, I better have a drink, or better get to, I don't have much money, better take my last $10 in the casino and get rich, that type of thinking, negative, addictive thinking. But I try to have I try to make my default setting whenever I'm troubled about something is, what can I do to help somebody else? I need to get on the phone and call another guy that I know that is struggling with an addiction. What can I do to help him? That's a default setting that I try to reprogram myself something in a positive way there. But it doesn't come like initially. I mean, at first it just takes admitting that there's a problem with this addiction and recognizing that this addiction is causing a person's life to be unmanageable. That the drinking or the gambling or the drug addiction is causing problems. The mind will want to tell a person that, oh, everything's fine. I mean, they could be no money, living in their car, and go, well, at least I'm in a car. I'm not, outside, and it's like, well, but it's still a problem. Your life is unmanageable if that's where it's at, and it can improve from that point forward. It takes a psychic change, and but it has to start with admitting that there's a problem, and then reaching out because other people and other programs are there to assist and show how it's done, and it's really a lot simpler than it seems. And things like this, oh, it's this insurmountable task, and it's like you just have to start by putting the plug in the jug for one day, and reaching out, and getting into fellowship, and then others will help show you, how to do it. And that change occurs by going through, like in a 12-step program. There's like exercises that you go through. They're simple, and it involves taking a look at ourselves. I think one of the things that perpetuates addiction is that, the addiction causes problems in people's lives. And in my case, I used to have a lot of shame involved with, oh God, I did this and that. I don't want to go into any specific examples, but there's a lot of shame, and that shame will keep a person trapped down in that low spot. And they think that the only way they can get any relief from that is to participate in their addiction. And then it just goes on and on and on for years and years and years. For me, it was over 20 years of a daily drinking problem, mostly alcohol, but all sorts of other things as well. So I guess my advice would be to just start right here, right now. Understand that a lot of these problems are not because you're a bad person. It's just because this addiction has a hold, has a grip, and there's an opportunity to start right now to reach out, and there's some resources that'll be online here that you can reach out to, including Alcoholics Anonymous and all of the other places. And there's a lot of hope, and my life couldn't be better. And there was a time in my life where, it was the worst. It was living hell, so that's part of my experience. So what do you think, Angela?
Yeah, that does definitely sound good. And I definitely agree that right now is, I like what you said too, Kevin, with it, there being a difference between addiction and a problem, especially right now with COVID going on. We have a lot of people with big changes in their lives, being home with their families, a lot of different stressors that people aren't used to of. Being home with their kids all the time, being with your mates all the time, and spending all that time together. I mean, schedules are different. So just having those added stressors that may cause discomfort, or maybe different issues that you weren't used to of, and new problems arising. So things that maybe that you weren't aware of, maybe addictions or maybe problems. So I think all that comes into play, and where all these new coping skills that we have to learn, or we teach our children, or being examples for our kids, all come into play. So I think all of this really adds a different layer to all our lives, and COVID really brings into play again for all of us that, hey, what can we do for our families and for ourselves to make a difference, to make our lives a little bit more easier, and not be so hard on ourselves, and give ourselves a little bit more grace. And like you said, is that we're okay, and we're going to be okay. But to start again. Tomorrow's a new day. What do you?
I love that. It's so hopeful. Jerome, when you were talking, I was thinking of the one day at a time. It's so true. You can start today. Right now can be a new time if someone's struggling, and fast forward a week or two, they're going to be feeling so much better. And the things you all have said about needing support and fellowship and people to encourage you. I mean, that's just very hopeful. Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, it's extremely hopeful. The future could be bright. It doesn't have to be dark, and the help is there, and it's just I can't say enough about the difference in my life. The way it is now, the way compared to the way it was, don't be afraid and reach out.
One of the things I was going to say too is and I think Don, are you want to chime in? Does somebody have a question that you wanted to? Yeah, go ahead, Don. What do we got?
Yeah, well, thanks for this awesome conversation tonight. I've been sharing lots of resources with folks that they can click on. We'll take them right there. But we did have a question from one of our viewers. Amanda is wondering if there's any advice that you all have to help someone who's in denial recognize that they are an addict.
Oh, yeah, there's the what they call the live bet questions, but I don't know if you're asking a family member, but the symptoms are what Jerome was talking about. Is it affecting your life? And so if you're wanting to help somebody, get, first of all, understanding that they truly don't see it. So it's not that they're going, yeah, I don't care about you. They're probably maybe not really seeing it. So one way to talk to them is maybe to talk to them about how maybe it's affecting their work or their relationships, or, instead of counting what they're doing, or, pointing out what they're doing wrong, maybe point towards, talking to them about, I've noticed that this is impacting your work, or this is how it's impacting our relationship, or, or this is how it's impacting your health. Maybe pointing out certain things that you're seeing that are not about the problem, but about what it's impacting. That can help. If you're counselors will ask, is this something that you've lied about? Do you tend to do this more than what you've told other people? I mean, that's a question you can ask. Do you ever start doing it and think, what? And you meant to do it this much, but you ended up doing it a lot more. That's a good question too. I'm curious. You ever sit down and do that once, and next thing you know, you're doing it more than you thought you would end up doing. So those are some vague type things that you can do. And anybody else, Shilo, I'll toss it to you and then pass it around.
I think that's good. I was thinking some people are going to be very open to that, to hearing what you have to say. But if they're not ready, one thing I've noticed is that we all have heard about enabling behavior, and I have helped families to create very strict boundaries so that the addictive behavior can no longer exist. We tend to want to cover things up and make it look okay and kind of excuse it away and help the person who's struggling to just kind of go on his life as normal. But after a while, that makes everyone miserable. And so boundaries are a very good way for people. So if you try to talk to your loved one and they're totally not interested in making change yet, you can make your life a lot easier and probably affect change in them by having some strict, maybe different boundaries than have been there before that no longer allow the addiction to continue. That's much harder with secretive addictions, like people who are hiding behavior, or electronic addictions that can kind of go on behind closed doors. But that is one way. If we can't get a loved one or someone to listen, we can at least really change the boundaries in their life so that they can no longer just function as they had been. If you're choosing to if you have no choice but to kind of be in that environment with them, you can make the environment no longer support their behavior. It's like smoking. That's what we do with smoking addiction, right? Is that we say, okay, now you have to smoke outside. I don't care if it's 4 degrees out, you're going to smoke outside, and you're not going to go to the store every day to buy cigarettes. You're going to, so you make it incredibly hard for an addiction to continue to happen. It can be very hard, though. I mean, that makes it sound easy, but that can make things worse before it gets better. And so that's also good to know that that person will need a lot of supports, because changing an entire system causes a lot of chaotic waves. But it's a worthwhile endeavor, and don't give up on your loved one, I would also say. don't give up. The other thing I wanted to add is that I can't remember the numbers, maybe someone else will, but I think it's 90% of people who struggle with addiction also have a coexisting mental health disorder that often in addiction programs is gone undiagnosed. And so it's really important too to get whatever, if there's PTSD or major depression or severe anxiety that's driving the use, that needs to be treated as well. Angela, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely co-occurring disorders definitely involved with addiction there. And another factor would be if someone can't abstain. So if you're, it's a process addiction or a substance abuse, if you can't abstain from that, that could be a flag that something is wrong. Also, if you're minimizing it, if you're saying, hey, I just had one drink, but you really had 6 drinks, that could be a red flag to look at. Or as you were saying, Shilo, I think if you, not I think, but if you are hiding it completely, if you're putting, let's say, for example, you said you were going to quit cigarettes and you're hiding cigarettes under the bed or alcohol or whatever, food or candy and eating in secrecy, then there could definitely be some red flags to look at. So that would be more of a addiction versus just a problem. So what do you think, Jerome?
Well, yeah, I mean, denial from a couple of different directions. One is if you're living in a household or have a friend or a loved one who has an addiction, alcohol or drugs, for example, and they're in denial about it. To stop enabling is key, and to speak the truth is, I think, very important. And sometimes it can be a little bit harsh. Shilo talked about boundaries, and boundaries are only good if they're held up and if they're strong, and the person needs to be said, your addiction is affecting, my life, and it's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable, and I'm not going to accept it. So either you do something about it, and then you've set the boundary, whatever that consequence is. There could be a lot of denial in the person, in the enabler, thinking, well, maybe, it isn't such a bad thing. There's a program for people in that situation. It's called AlAnon. I actually have a lot of experience in that one as well, because I've had to do that because there's been other people in my life that suffered from drug and alcohol addiction. My brother was one. He died of alcoholism about 5 years ago. And even after many years of sobriety, I was unable to convince him to stop drinking at all. And I found that to be a very difficult thing because I thought, God, I can't even save my own brother. And I know, I've learned a little bit about this, that was a struggle I had to go through from that angle, from the Al-Anon angle. So that's a resource that people can go out. So that denial is from that direction. If a person who is under the actively in addiction of drugs and alcohol, for example, if just the fact that if a person is questioning whether they have a problem or not, that's starting to open the crack of the door just a little bit, that that person's starting to realize maybe there is a problem. And if it could be suggested to them, well, why don't you try recovery? The tough love and the old school thing is, well, why don't you go try some controlled drinking, see how it works out. That's kind of a dangerous thing to say, and you guys may disagree with that completely, but sometimes you have to just say, well, go drink and tell me how it worked out for you, and because the denial is that strong, and you can't handcuff them, you can't chain them up in the garage, and so what are you going to do,
That's
and
true.
but it's a tough one. Denial, I think, is the root to the addiction. People don't believe that it's a problem when it's killing them. I mean, it's killing them. and they don't think it's a problem, and that's the crux of it. That's why denial can be such a harsh thing, So there's a couple ways to look at it.
Hey, I got to follow up to that, if you guys don't mind me. I was just curious from your guys' standpoint, what is there a value in, like, this person's asking essentially, what do you do about the other person? Do you think there's a value in first taking a look, like, for instance, going to one of these Al-Anon programs first for themselves before they even, go forward? That's just something I was just thinking about, taking a look at that person, as themselves first. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I believe absolutely, because the Al-Anon program is for the families of people that are specific. Al-Anon is kind of mostly for alcoholism, but it's gotten to be a lot wider ranging than that, because the enabler has to learn to change their default. Instead of, well, maybe a wife thinks, oh, well, if I just keep the house cleaner and make nicer dinners, maybe he'll quit drinking, when really that, just, pampering him isn't going to make him quit drinking. And vice versa. It can be the husband trying to be more supportive of a wife, just for a couple of examples. But yeah, I would say definitely reach out for those resources.
Yeah. I was going to say, when I was growing up, there was this commercial, and I want to agree with going to get support before you maybe take this stand in these boundaries. There was these, watching Days of Our Lives, probably, Angela. But these lawyer commercials, that are in between these shows, they're like, the insurance companies, they have lawyers working on their side. Who do you have working on yours? Well, that addict, they got that addiction working on their side. What have you got working on yours to help support you to hold these boundaries and to navigate this complex situation? Because it's not just one conversation, and by the way, who knows what boundary to put down? Every situation is totally different, So, Matt, I think you made a good point. If you've got someone in your life that's an addict, believe me, it's not a one conversation deal. They've got the addict working really hard on their side. Who do you have working on yours?
Right.
Because believe me, it's an ongoing deal. It's not a one-time conversation.
And I also feel with Al-Anon too, and going to meetings prior, you're going to get different perspectives and different situations that would hopefully be able to help your situation too. Because as you say, it's not a one-time conversation, and you're also going to be able to look at different ways to be able to approach your loved one or your friend, or find different ways of aiding, and then of course helping yourself to be able to aid and find ways to change yourself and enabling. I love that, Jerome, because, I know myself, I was a big enabler in many ways of certain friends and thinking I was just helping them, but I really was just enabling. And especially being someone who is wanting to be a helper and is kind, and people I think in the service world always are trying to help, sometimes can counterfire, be opposite. So we definitely going to meetings of Al-Anon is a really good thing. So knowledge is power.
I wanted to jump in real quick. Don, was there any other questions?
No, we don't have any other questions, and I've shared lots of resources, including Al-Anon. So we've got links in there for our viewers. Did you want to circle back to the trivia question? Just to, we so far don't have any guesses, so we might want to circle back to that to see if anybody's interested.
Well, we're getting close to the hour here, and but I'll throw it out there. Maybe somebody at the 11th hour will sweep in and get it. But the winner of who can answer this question, it gets a webcam, a high definition webcam. The question is what television series from the late 70s, early 80s had the character in it named Rerun? That's the question. And with us kind of wrapping up and everything, I want to make sure every person gets a chance to say something. Tonight is going to be our last night for doing Table Talk. I don't think we're opposed to doing it in the future. It doesn't seem to be something right now that there's a need for. We're just kind of a natural pause, and hopefully there won't be a need for us to come back together and be this support for the community. So we thought for now we'd take a pause, but I did want to just give every one of us a chance to have a final thought to share, and then we'll wrap it up with the answer to the trivia question and kick it back to Don. So, Shilo, any parting thoughts, or even some local businesses we want to give a shout out to?
Well, I haven't thought of that yet, but I want to go back to something Jerome said that I think is so important about shame. Shame is correlated with depression, feeling, or addiction, like feeling shame. And Brene Brown has a great distinction, which I can't remember if we talked about before. But shame and embarrassment are important to look at. So you can be embarrassed by some of your behavior. So you can think, man, I'm embarrassed that I fell back into drinking again, or I'm really embarrassed that I got, I overused and this happened. That is actually helpful, because then you say, well, I don't want to do that again. And you can set goals to not be embarrassed again. But shame is a whole other animal that we usually learn in childhood, and everyone deals with shame at some level. But shame says I'm a bad person. So because of what I did, I'm a bad person. And it goes to an attack on the character instead of just a bad choice. So I feel like that's so important, because it is very much related to addiction and struggles. And I also think that's important to say. Most people struggle. And so someone might have addiction, someone might have something else, and we're all just kind of in this human experience together. But Brene Brown also talks about how shame cannot exist if you share it with another person. So it goes back to the importance that we all do stay really connected when we're struggling. So I want to thank Jerome and Kevin as well for sharing that you're in recovery and the work that you've done so that you can teach and inspire other people. Thank you so much. That's all I have to say. I don't have plugs ready for businesses or anything. I just really appreciated this time together. So thank you.
Angela?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for letting me be part of this wonderful group. It's just been a joy to be able to just have a simple conversation and talk about things that I think we all think about, and struggles that all of us may be having, including myself, and just to hear different perspectives from all sorts of different backgrounds, as all of you, and the community out there, and being a local Bendite here now for 20 plus years, just seeing the change and seeing everyone progress with COVID. So just been a pleasure. And again, thank you guys. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Jerome?
Well, yeah, I think, this has been a great experience. I think this is an example of fellowship. I mean, I've gotten to know you folks, and I've learned a lot, and we've been helping each other as we're trying to reach out and help the community, and thanks to Dawn and to Matt for, providing this platform to do that. I mean, it just goes to show that if you try to help other people, you're helping yourself, and that's one of the keys to, overcoming addiction, is in the end, you got to help others if you want to continue to help yourself, so it's just been a beautiful thing. And this is the type of thing that is available to everybody out there. So those that are out there, if you are struggling, reach out to those resources that they've put up, and there's hope, and your life can change and be better in ways that you never imagined. It's not that hard. You can do it. You just got to start. Just got to start right now. Make a decision to just just try to start right away. So anyway, I just really appreciate, you know, I'm gonna miss you guys. So let's do this again and meet up again some more. God bless everybody.
Yeah. Jerome, thanks so much for, sharing that. And I'd love to get together with you guys again and kick around another conversation at some point. And Jerome, I really appreciate you being willing to come on and be transparent, and same thing, Angela. And it's been a while since we've connected, but I feel like we just always pick up where we left off. Sometimes Costco on a Friday night, you know what I mean? And then Shilo, thank you so much for taking a step and kind of hanging out and doing this too. It's been just a pleasure to have you and to be able to do this with you guys. I really, out of kind of the nugget that I like the most, just kind of the thing that spoke to me today was that shame can't exist if you share your problems with somebody else, and that's why there's hundreds of thousands of people going to meetings all over the world. And I mean, God, I can't even imagine how many thousands of people go to meetings every day. All 51 states, Hawaii, China, Taiwan, India, they're all going, and there's no money in it. It's because of that one thing, is when you share it with somebody else, shame goes away. And I don't know how that works. It's gravity. It's just magic. It's like, do this and this happens, share it with somebody else, shame goes away. I've experienced that. So, anyways, I just thought I'd leave with that. And, Don, Matt, thank you so much for hosting us. And with that, I'll kick it back over to Don. I will say the answer to the trivia question. Don, did anybody come up with it at all?
Yes, we got 2 answers, and just Amanda barely beat out Bodie with getting her answer in. So, I mean, it was so close. It was like a photo finish. But Amanda guessed What's Happening. And Bodie and Amanda did get her answer in again, just like right before Bodie. So how does Amanda get in contact with you to get her prized webcam?
Yeah, Amanda, I tell you what, just email me at kevin@brightwayscounseling.com. Let's just do that. Email me, and then I'll get with you, and we'll figure out how to get it to you. That's kevin@brightwayscounseling.com.
Great. Thanks for that. Amanda also said thank you so much for the helpful information and advice. So I did want to get that comment out there. And I just wanted to say thank you so much, Angela, Shilo, Jerome, Kevin. It's been so nice getting to know you guys. And, we did this as an experiment to try to bring people together and give them social connection and to combat social isolation during the pandemic. And certainly we're not at the end of the pandemic, but it's been really fun and something that I've looked forward to on my Wednesday nights, is getting to connect with you all. And I really appreciate that. And a special thanks to Kevin. He was the mastermind behind Table Talk, and he's done a ton of work to help both with Table Talk and just combat COVID-19 in general. So I did want to say a special thanks to Kevin for that. And thanks to Matt and Hand in Hand Productions. For our viewers, please know that we have now a whole library of videos on how to care for your health and your mental health during the pandemic. They're available. You can watch them anytime on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. So please visit there and enjoy some of the resources that we have available for you. We have our next live event is a couple weeks away. We're going to do one focused on veterans. It's going to be a panel of veterans. They're going to be talking all about how they've got your 6 in terms of how to get through this pandemic. So that one's going to be really fun. Please join us for that. And with that, I want to wish you all a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll hope to see you soon.